solution for a seamless payment landscape. We'll also expanding UPI capabilities such as autopay, light, and cross-border payments. With that, positioning India as a global leader in digital payments. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Mr. Vikrant Kulkarni to share his wisdom for Payment 2030. Let's hear it a little louder and let's welcome him here, Mr. Vikrant Kulkarni.
Yeah. Good morning, everyone. We are today here on the day 2 of Bharat FinTech Summit 2025. So day 1 has been pretty good. Thank you for all of you for your feedback and responses. Looking forward to have similar sessions on the day 2 as well. So we'll start with invisible payments. Talking about invisible payments, but just going back, just to appreciate where we are today. So today we have been almost have been reached up to the stage where we have everything in the payments which is sort of sorted out in some or other manner. P2P payments, if you see, those are very simplified by virtue of UPI, of course, and also in B2B payments, the focus is started. So soon we'll see the growth there also and some innovations happening at that end also. So what we wanted to pursue here is how the 2030 will look like. I know it's a very short horizon of 5 years, but looking at the pace at which the changes are happening today, it's too much. Because so UPI, if you guys know, it launched formally around 2016, and by 2021 it has just broke down all the records of digital payments adoption as well as transaction as in value and volume, both terms. So that is how it has been raised up to. So we can think about this in different manner also, but 5 years is the area which is enough for the transformation. So yeah, talking about how it started, right? So the journey of last 10 years, if we see 10, 15 years, it's like between 2015 and 2020, mobile-based payments were the ones which were on the spree, be it based on wallet, bank's own mobile banking technologies. It was pretty consumed by the customer as well, and as well as the banks also were pushing for that. The next part came into 2020 and 25 was more towards the having embedded payments. So when we talk about embedded payments, what does it mean? Likewise, today when we use apps like Uber, Ola, or Swiggy, Zomato, you don't have to switch the app, right? There are some of the options with which you can complete your transaction journey within that app itself. So that is a short version of explaining embedded payments. So looking at in deep, it can be a wider thing also, because it's just not the embedding payment services. It has a lot of things to do from the perspective of adding the experience for the customer, putting up the basic payment framework for the customer, etc. So now what will happen next will be the invisible payment. So what do you mean by invisible payment? So invisible payments, in short, it's like you are not you may not be able to realize that you are doing the payment. So just observe the journey here. We started with cash, then moved to cards, right? Then move to wallets, digital wallets, and then move to mobile banking. And next will be the invisible payments, where you don't have to go for any other experience to complete the payment. So that is how the future would look like. So wearable payments have already started. The payments based in the, using the card, you can do the payment, etc. Those things are also coming up. So that is how the future looks like from the payments perspective. Yeah. So how does largely the focus would be? So B2B payments will be the focus from the perspective of product side. We'll see the UPI as global coverage. So in today's date, UPI has been adopted in India completely, but we'll be able to see this UPI going global as well. So that's how the things have been started, where the integrations have been initiated between the countries based on UPI transactions and all. So this is something we'll come back to this again, maybe for the conclusive side. But yeah, whole structure will be based on these 4 pillars. One is product, what things are going to happen in the product. and then we'll have technology, how the technology will improve, what are the new things that are going to come in the technology, and then customer support and the people. So talking about the product, how does we see this getting perceived, right? So in today's date, if you see, there are 70% of in-person transactions are based on NFCs and QR codes. So wherever we go, we usually tap the card, right? We look for, our first option is to tap the card and do the payment. And how it will look like, it will be based on the wearables payment. So be it based on watch, which was currently launched in the session of GFF as well. Car-based payments are also there. Also, similarly, the payments which have been done to the vendor, so that is also, which is the B2B part. So there is a lot of story behind B2B. So typically what we see, the transactions are happening, or the transaction getting too much of sort of broad base from the customer perspective, are the retail transactions which are between person to person. So when I pay money to someone and someone pays money to me, if it is a person to person transaction, that has been sorted out. So I can do UPI, I have multiple options, banking transfer, etc. But when it comes to B2B payments, there are larger problems are lying there. So likewise, there is no end-to-end solution for that. So if you have attended yesterday's session on, say, CMS, cash management system, you would have learned that cash management system is largely for the B2B payments. And B2B payments, the problem is like, you will deliver some goods to services to the customer, then you will raise the invoice, and once that invoice is raised, the other person is supposed to accept that invoice, process the payment, complete the payment, inform you back the payment has been completed. You will, I mean, the vendor or merchant or business will also acknowledge that payment and then reconcile against the invoice. Now this loop is so simple to talk about, but not that simple in the system, because there are a lot of teams which sits behind in the accounts department just to manage this part, just to manage how the payment and reconciliation will completed for the B2B. So B2B payments have been something which was not been solved so far, but looking forward within 5 years of range, we should see that this will also get addressed, and largely we'll see the AI-driven payments which will be coming into the picture. So from the settlement perspective or the cross-border perspective, today's cross-border payment are typically the ones where it takes at least 8 to 10 days. Okay. Yeah, there are alternate methods to that, but if I see the cross-border payment experience as such, there are a lot of problems. So likewise, I have transferred somebody, say suppose from my account to say US, I may not know when that transaction will reach. So US is a very typical example. So if I send somebody in Africa, I may not know whether that money will reach to him or not. I may not know whether his bank is direct bank or correspondence bank. So there are multiple structures behind that, where you don't know about when the transaction will reach, whether it will reach or not, what money you have to pay as a fees, right? And what is the current status of that transaction? So there are a lot of such things which are currently not have any sort of indication for the payment user which is there. So that is something will get replaced by the cross-border payments with improved tracking. So we'll have multiple technologies behind that, like Wise is there, Visa Direct is there. You may have the blockchain which will be coming in. So that will simplify. So there are a lot of such innovations are happening in the world, not yet adopted in India, but the vision is maybe in next 5 years we'll definitely see something out there where this also will get adopted. So talking about the CBDC, so CBDC has just started, maybe a year or two just now. A lot of adoption been seen into the B2B payments, likewise for the wholesale CBDC. Retail CBDC, which is still in, which is still in the phase of getting adopted. There is very limited adoption which has happened around that. But looking at the horizon of next few years, we should definitely see that the CBDC will get adopted, at least in the government payment. So the subsidies which are coming in today, the government benefits which are coming today, so that will be transferred to CBDC. Not fully, may not be, but some of the part will definitely will be started after this. Okay, for the talking about the vendor payment, so it is again the part of B2B payments only. So today's vendor payments which are happening, those are the ones which are delayed payments. Payment instructions are not clear, right? So what do you mean by payment instruction? The suggestion would be like when you see the invoice. So anybody has experienced B2B payment here? Have paid to vendor or collected money from vendor? Anybody? Okay, none from the room. Good. So what happens is actual scenario with the B2B payment is like the flow which I was explaining just before. It's the horizon of 20-30 days. So like we just imagine a supplier has given the product to the buyer, and now he is not getting money for 40 days about that product which he has delivered. So now those 40 days, he has to still run the business because the supplier which we are talking about is largely MSME. So he still has to run the business. So there comes the problem of cash flow because you have taken the money, you have created the product, which you have sold the product. Now you don't have money to create a new product so that you can again sell it. So that cycle is sort of vicious cycle. अभी आपने ऑब्जर्व किया रहेगा सो देर माइट बी एक्सपीरियंसेस वेयर you have seen vendors who are selling this thing umbrellas. Have you seen anybody in this era? I mean, in these 2-3 months, say in the winter season, have anybody seen anybody selling umbrella in the back door or somewhere near the road? No, right? Why? Because he knows there is no buyer for that, right? So he has to purchase now something else, right? So he'll go for another product, he'll purchase that product, then again start selling that product. So idea is like from the MSME perspective, for them to start the selling, they always have to purchase something and then to resell. So depend upon the type of what you can say MSME segment. If it is a manufacturer, it has raw material, but something will always be brought from the market and then it will be resold to the end customers. Now for that, taking the money back, having that sort of petty cash in your hand so that you can purchase new product, top up the existing product, improve the existing product, and then sell. So that is something which is a cash flow, which typically every MSME goes through that cycle and the difficulty of that cycle, I would say rather. So that is something which we will be able to see with the AI-driven supplier payments. So how do I explain this? Maybe it will be like there is a ERP. Just try to imagine this part. There is a ERP on which the invoice is generated. Now this invoice is generated based on the product which has been bought by the buyer. Now this invoice is sent back to the buyer, auto approved on its own because it has all the matching details which was been there. This data is there today also, but it's not been integrated fully. So now this gets auto approved, and for the payment, the instruction can be picked up from the invoice and payment can be initiated. So is it like very superficial? I would say no. There are things which are happening today also. There is nothing new which will happen, but the adoption of that part would definitely be there. So that's where we'll also get the push for the platforms like supply chain platforms, or you can say trades, the platform like trades, where we can deeply integrate it with those systems and then do the analysis of the invoice and do the payments on its own. So that is something which we see will be coming out here. So pardon for the title, it's not about digital rupee, it is about the reconciliation. So one of the biggest problem today in the payments industry is it's not the payment. Payment is not the problem. You can do the payment today also, right? How many of you have experienced problem in the payment today? Anybody who was not able to send money to other person using any mobile app? You are not able to, no, he just raised a hand. You are not able to send the money? Once or twice, that's the exception which is there, right? Yeah, I understand that. But largely, I'm saying 90% it is solved, right? So maybe it takes 2-3 minutes largely, right, to do the payment. But is it the same thing which happens at the bank? And maybe we'll talk about that 2-3% only, right, which is there. So now this 2-3% which he was mentioning is the where the problem lies today, right? And why it lies. So I'll just give you a background for that. Now, say suppose if I do a UPI transaction to you, uh, how many people or how many entities you think will get involved? I know everybody will be aware by now. Yeah, there are 4 parties which gets involved into it, right? 4, and behind that, if you see, there are 6 parties in and all which get involved. Say suppose I am transferring from Google to PhonePe, then Google is involved, PhonePe is involved, right? Behind that, there are again 2 companies which will get involved, which are called as the PSPs. Those will be there. After that, there will be your bank, which will be involved, where your bank account is there and the other person's bank account is there. So there are these 6 entities which are involved. Typically in payments, what we know is a messaging service. So if I send you money, actual money doesn't get transferred. You just get message. Your bank gets that message that the remitter bank has taken the confirmation and secured the money from his account and given instruction to beneficiary bank to give money to you from their own pool account, so that based on this instruction, this transaction happen. Actual money flow within the bank, that happens during the settlement. Now this settlements are again, it has their own cycles. Likewise, RTGS is one of the payment system where it is very immediate one. It's a real-time settlement, just as the name suggests. Others are net settlement and deferred settlements. So now, coming back to the complexity of that is like the 2-3% which sir was mentioning, largely is the problem where this settlement is not happening or the messaging is not complete. So the message has one flow, right? So suppose when I ask you question, you answer my question, the conversation completes, right? Similarly, in this payment, what you can say cycle, when the question has been asked or the request has been sent, money has been sent, money has been received, that has been informed back, the loop is closed. But the problem of 2-3% is where this communication breaks. So amongst these 6 entities which we discussed all together, if anyone, अगर एक भी आपका communication drop हो जाएगा, you will not get the response and there will be a transaction which will be floating, right? Now what happens to that floated transaction? So you get the message, right? After 2-3 days, you will receive money if in your bank account, if beneficiary have not received it, right? So what happens in these 2-3 days is only the reconciliation. Now, this is if anybody is here from the operation stream or payment or banking side, they would definitely appreciate. It's a hefty effort. There are teams which work on it. So there are solutions which are there to automate this, but not fully. So there is sort of what I can say, it's a phygital type of journey. It's not completely digital, it's not completely phygital. So you would have people in the operations team which will be doing this reconciliation using Excel, micros, doing this VLOOKUP and all and whatnot, just to complete that transaction loop. Now this all processes are likely 70% is today something which this reconciliation happens manually. So like we said for the, what you can say, for the banks, it's the same for the businesses. For businesses also, I have done the payment, I have given the invoice. Now the payment has come to me. I don't know from it's against which invoice, right? So, okay, just a funny question. Out of you, how many can look for your last 1 month's bank statement and just tell me that which is the transaction is pertains to which reason? Anybody will be able to tell you? No, right? Okay, forget about 18 rupees ka transaction. Everybody knows that is for what, right? But other than that, it's largely very difficult, right, to identify this transaction pertains to what. मतलब 100 रुपए दिए थे, किसको दिए थे पता नहीं. There are a lot of same numbers which are there, right? You usually pay 50 rupees, 100 rupees. Can't figure it out कि किसके लिए payment था, right? So now just imagine this is your statement. You are not able to read it, right? Just try to go one step above. How the statement of your employer will look like, right? They'll have hundreds of vendors, hundreds of services been given, hundreds of payments coming in. Some are delayed, some are in same month, some are of same, you can say, same amount, etc. Right? So that is again the reconciliation which happens in the every business. So that's the reason I was saying it's not only for banks, it's for the businesses also. So reconciliation is all over. So that is where we think that it will be 90% reconciliation will be on the system based, completely system based. So it's like having to have multiple coordinates of the systems, and data from multiple systems will definitely help to resolve this stuff. So that is where we see this will be happening in next 5 years. Yeah. So from the merchant side, it would be largely from merchant to experience first service provider. So what does it mean, right? So there are MDR which has been there today. So okay, I'll just give you a disclaimer. In payments, basic things are solved. So whatever you will hear it today, it will be a step ahead, right? Because I can't say like things will be happening like आपने देखा फ्रिज की तरफ, फ्रिज में से फ्रिज में कोई बॉक्स एम्प्टी है तो उससे ऑर्डर हो गया एंड देन पेमेंट हो गया. तो दैट इज समथिंग वेरी सुपरफिशियल. सो आई एम नॉट टॉकिंग अबाउट दैट. जस्ट अ बिट डीपर ऑन द पेमेंट साइड ओनली. So MDR is something which every merchant has to pay whenever any digital payment service if they have accepted. So that's where the MDR has been deducted from the merchant. So that is where we see that this will be a lower MDR. Because why this MDR is also been charged is like to provide the infrastructure and to the services, right? Now, since everything will get sorted out, we see very low operations which are happening, there will be very low adoption of manual processes which will be there. So that's where it will get improvised. We also have payment gateway companies which are there, which will have a global money impact, right? So the networks which are being used today is largely Swift, which will be well known. And more to that, there are new things which are coming in, like payment gateway or a payment aggregator for cross-border, etc. So that is something which we see getting improved as well. So from the people perspective, yeah. So there are traditional cashiers which are there today that will be largely invisible payment enabler. So you might have heard about this Amazon ka cart, right? Uska video dekha rahega. That is something which will get adopted out there. The human resources which are been used which are been there for the customer support, that also will get automated largely. Will it be zero? I don't think so. It will be zero because the customer support is a segment which is very critical. Likewise, the operations, but customer support is again very critical, right? How many of you have experienced that you have not received order on Zomato, so you are just reached out to customer support? There is a bot which is responding, right? And if that bot is not properly trained, within second conversation you understand it's a bot, because it will give you irrelevant answers, right? You are saying the order is late, they'll say that what is the problem with your order? Because you know what the problem, right? I was expecting at this time and it hasn't received at that time. Why are you asking me, right? So what we tend to have is put some conversation in such that it will get escalated and some person will get assigned, so that somebody will talk to me in sense and give me answers, right? So that is something which is there, which needs a lot of maturity to happen in this AI. So which is coming in. So there are multiple models which are getting built, which will get this sorted out. But still, will it be 100%? I don't know. But if you ask me, I would say it may not be the 100%. It will be somewhere in the 80-90%. Maybe after 10 years, it might be 100%, because by that time it will get improvised altogether and system will get also matured. Yeah. So yeah, that was a part from the people side. Technology side will have siloed payments which are there today. That will get moved to the payments hub. So that is where the consolidation will start happening in. So within this consolidation, we will have multiple payment switches which are getting embedded into the one. That is something which we see it is going to happen out there. Again, we had something about the zero trust or biometric authentication. Uh, so we just have started like palm-based payments, etc. So that is again will be something which we can see. And customer support perspective, I think we talked about it. So that is from the payment refunds or the payment settlements is something which we see getting improvised altogether. So yeah, maybe that was the part from the my side from the vision of 2030, which is more promising, and look forward to have new and newer things coming up as a part of this. Yeah, thank you everyone.